Picture a city shrouded in the heavy, flickering gloom of the night's final watch.
Oh, that's such a striking image to start with.
Right. It's just suffocatingly quiet. The deserted streets of ancient Nineveh, here and there, the faint, guttering light of oil lamps pulses from scattered dwellings.
Casting those long, twisted shadows against the mud brick walls.
Exactly.
Right.
And otherwise, the entire world seems to just be holding its breath, moving through these shadows with this, practiced desperate caution are two men and a mule.
Slipping away from the main roads.
Yeah, they're carrying a highly dangerous secret wrapped in a heavy bolt of silk draped across the animal's back, because hidden inside that silk is the fugitive Prince Marut.
And the very soil beneath their feet seems to thirst for his royal blood.
It really does. What you're looking at here isn't a simple, daring escape. It is a masterclass in psychological warfare. Because, surviving impossible odds doesn't always require the sharpest sword. Sometimes it requires weaponizing the cruelty of your enemies.
It is an incredibly evocative world to step into. I mean, we are entering a space where ancient history and the dark, subtle edges of magic collide.
So true.
Today, our deep dive pulls you straight into the heart of this harrowing sequence, drawn from the narrative of Chasing Death, Episode 26, Journey to Yemen.
We're going to examine the anatomy of a perfect high-stakes escape.
Exactly. You're going to see exactly how to navigate impossible checkpoints, how to survive hostile environments, and how wit, sacrifice, and the unseen forces of the world dictate who lives and who dies when everything is on the line.
The atmosphere is just thick with a very specific kind of dread right from the start. I mean, they are trying to put as much distance as possible between themselves and Nineveh before the sun comes up.
Dawn is the absolute enemy here.
It is. They need to cross the border before daybreak because the king of Babylon's soldiers are just everywhere.
The text actually describes them standing in the dark like statues of bronze, just watchful and completely still.
Yeah, and as Kanu, the fiercely devoted Abyssinian slave, and Zayn, his pragmatic companion, move through the dark, you feel the crushing psychological weight they are carrying.
Every single shadow could be a spear.
Every sound could be a patrol.
And notice how that psychological weight is carried so differently by the two protectors. We are watching two entirely divergent philosophies of survival in motion.
Right, they handle the pressure in completely opposite ways.
Kanu operates on a mechanism of absolute bodily devotion. At one point, the prince whispers from within the stifling confines of the silk, asking how much further they have to go.
And Kanu's response is so telling.
It really is. He responds that as long as his slave draws breath, no harm will come to him. Kanu is entirely willing to die in a brief, bloody skirmish. For him, a noble death in service to the prince is, well, it's a successful outcome.
But Zayn is completely different. Zayn operates on cold, pragmatic clarity.
Yeah, Zayn looks at Kanu's bravery and realizes a terrifying truth. Courage is actually a liability if it blinds you to the math of your situation.
Because a violent fight against the king's soldiers wouldn't be a victory. It would just mean a few wounded guards, a dead slave, and a captured prince.
Precisely.
Consider the mechanics of what Zayn is doing here. It's a complete suppression of the primal fight-or-flight instinct. He has this internal philosophy that really anchors their survival.
The snake and the stick, right?
Exactly. He tells himself they must find a strategy to kill the snake without breaking the stick, meaning you have to neutralize a lethal threat without destroying the very tools you need to survive the rest of the journey.
It's like a high-stakes chess match.
Yes, where one player is willing to violently sacrifice himself as a pawn, but the other knows they need a precise checkmate, not just a noble defeat. If you smash the stick to kill the snake, you have nothing left to fend off the wolves.
That is the essence of strategic restraint. Recognizing that brute force will only accelerate your destruction when you are, vastly outmatched.
And Zayn's philosophy is about to face the ultimate stress test.
Because the darkness they have been using as a shield begins to bleed away.
As the stars pale and that first faint blush of dawn touches the eastern sky, their psychological dread hardens into a very physical, unavoidable reality. Nebuchadnezzar's forces have established fortified checkpoints at the frontier.
And these aren't casual patrols. They are scrutinizing every single soul trying to pass. There are squadrons of men with drawn swords, moving in a continuous, restless rhythm.
Finding absolutely no gaps in the perimeter, Zayn realizes evasion is just no longer an option.
They have to walk right into the jaws of the trap. They have to bluff.
This is where the tension becomes almost unbearable. Zayn turns to Kanu and gives him instructions that completely subvert Kanu's nature as a warrior.
He has to play the role of a senseless, broken mute.
Right. No matter what happens, no matter what indignity he suffers, he can only grunt and gesture. Think about what that demands of a proud, fiercely capable fighter.
He has to completely erase his own threat signature. It is a massive, calculated gamble.
And Zayn adopts the persona of a weary merchant from Babylon heading home.
But a bluff of this magnitude requires total commitment to the illusion. You cannot half-play a victim.
So true. When they approach the checkpoint, the soldiers immediately single out the hulking Abyssinian. I mean, a warrior of Kanu's size naturally draws the eye.
He is an anomaly that triggers a soldier's threat assessment. A guard barks a question at him.
And true to Zayn's desperate instructions, Kanu gestures wildly, making these guttural, inarticulate noises.
Zayn steps in smoothly, adopting the deferential tone of a merchant, claiming the poor wretch was born without the gift of tongue.
And the soldiers' reaction here reveals something truly disturbing about human nature. They find this brokenness enormously entertaining.
They start mocking Kanu, laughing at his frantic, helpless gestures.
And then it escalates. They begin dealing him sharp, brutal blows to the side of the head. And Kanu, who could likely snap their necks in a fair fight, absorbs every single strike in total silence.
He forces a vacant, slack-jawed grin onto his face to sustain the performance.
While Zayn is forced to just stand there and watch his ally get brutalized, his eyes nervously darting to that heavy bolt of silk on the mule's back, knowing one tear in the fabric means death.
We really need to analyze why Zayn's strategy works in this exact moment. The cruelty of the guards serves a distinct psychological function.
How so?
By allowing the soldiers to indulge in mockery and violence, Zayn and Kanu are essentially blinding them. When human beings engage in sadistic entertainment, their situational awareness plummets.
They feel superior, they feel safe.
Exactly, and they focus entirely on their own amusement. The guards are no longer looking for a fugitive prince, they are playing with a broken toy.
But the danger compounds, right? A soldier's attention drifts from Kanu and lands on the silk. He runs a calloused hand over the heavy fabric and accuses Zayn of stealing it.
The soldier's eyes take on that familiar predatory mercenary light. He demands the silk.
It is the absolute nightmare scenario. If that bolt of silk is unrolled, the prince is exposed and they are all dead before the sun fully rises.
Zayn abandons the calm merchant persona. He begins practically begging.
He pleads that he is a poor man, that the cloth belongs to an unforgiving creditor. He reaches into his robes and offers the soldier solid gold coins instead.
But the soldier gives a harsh, jagged laugh. He says he'll take the gold and the silk.
The man reaches out to physically pull the bolt from the mule. In a moment of total heart-stopping desperation, Zayn closes his eyes. He invokes the spirit of a holy saint named Orion.
And he simply blows a soft, silent breath toward the silk.
What follows is a sequence of pure, visceral horror for that greedy soldier. The manifestation is immediate.
Where the bolt of heavy silk rested just a fraction of a second before, the soldier suddenly sees the massive, snarling, golden form of a lion crouched upon the mule's back.
Its muscles are coiled, its eyes are burning like embers, fixed entirely on him.
The soldier shrieks in pure terror. He screams about a lion and sprints toward the guardhouse without looking back, completely abandoning his post.
But here is the brilliant, calculated twist of this magic. The other guards react with confusion and then, hilarity.
To their eyes, the mule still carries nothing but a lifeless bolt of cloth.
They burst into laughter, mocking their fleeing comrade for what they assume is a sudden, cowardly fit of madness. Still chuckling at the absurdity of it all, they wave Zayn and Kanu through the checkpoint as a nuisance.
They cross the border on trembling legs, literally walking away from their own executions. That disparity in perception is the genius of the scene.
But wait, look closely at how the magic functions here. Does Zayn's supernatural ability actually work without Kanu's physical endurance?
That's a great question.
Because if Kanu had broken character, if his pride took over and he fought back when he was being hit, the distraction wouldn't have worked and the magic would have been exposed.
I agree completely. The magic required the misdirection that Kanu's brutalization provided.
If they were all on high alert, staring intently at the travelers, Zayn blowing a breath and making one guard hallucinate wouldn't have been enough.
The other guards would have seen the magic, or at least seen the desperation, and attacked. They weaponized the guards' cognitive biases. Because the guards were already primed to view Zayn and Kanu as pathetic, harmless entertainment, a screaming soldier didn't trigger an alarm.
It just triggered more amusement.
Exactly. Zayn turned the enemy's own arrogance into the very mechanism of their escape. The guards' cruelty built the cage, and their mockery left the door wide open.
So once they are miles beyond the site of the border, the adrenaline crash hits. They find temporary shelter in the sparse shade of a cluster of henna bushes.
They carefully unwrapped the silk.
Prince Marut is practically half fainting from the intense heat and the cramped, terrifying confinement. He collapses onto the sand, drawing long, ragged breaths.
They managed to restore him with the meager supplies they carry, some barley bread, a jar of fig preserves, and cold spring water.
But in the aftermath of this miracle, Zayn makes a highly deliberate choice.
He does. When the young prince asks why the soldier was screaming about a beast, Kanu laughs it off. Kanu genuinely believes the soldier's mind simply snapped under the pressure of duty.
Or perhaps the rising heat of the morning.
Right. He calls it a profound stroke of fortune. And Zayn simply nods in agreement. He keeps his power entirely concealed.
He actively chooses not to reveal that he manipulated reality. He lets his closest allies, the people he is risking his life for, believe their survival was born of pure luck.
Which raises an intense question about trust and the isolation of power. Why hide your greatest weapon from your shield brother?
But the reality of their situation doesn't leave them time to philosophize. Connie lays out the unforgiving geography ahead. They need to travel upstream along the Euphrates, cut violently through the southern reaches of Sumeria, and push day and night.
Aiming for Yemen in 6 days.
Yeah, but the fatal flaw in the plan is that they are on foot. Their progress is agonizingly slow in a world where the king's cavalry moves like the wind. To survive, they have to detour into a lawless enclave of nomads and outcasts about 12 leagues away to buy horses.
This decision perfectly illustrates the constant friction of survival in a hostile world. To escape the organized, formalized threat of the king's military, they must willingly walk into the chaotic, unpredictable threat of a brigand settlement.
This isn't a marketplace. It's a hive of criminals and bandits who survive by trading plundered goods.
Kanu warns them that loyalty here goes to the highest bidder, and many of these men sell secrets straight back to Babylon. They pay a suspicious innkeeper in gold for a meal. Zayn sells the remaining, now empty silk to generate funds, and they are eventually led to a local horse trader.
And this trader immediately changes the temperature of the narrative. The description of this man tells you everything you need to know about the danger.
He has curly black hair, a jagged sword scar running the entire length of his right cheek.
And the heavy, lingering bearing of a predator who just decided to settle down and open a business. He has an oily, deceptive laugh that doesn't reach his eyes.
He looks at Zayn, Kanu, and the prince with complete undisguised suspicion.
Zayn tries to reestablish his merchant cover story, claiming they hail from Elam and are simply returning home after a hard journey.
But the trader is deeply observant. His gaze drifts past Zayn and locks onto the young prince.
In a harsh, sun-baked desert environment populated entirely by rough, weather-beaten outcasts, the prince's fine-boned features and milk-white skin stand out like a beacon.
The trader notes, with a dangerous edge to his voice, that the boy looks like an aristocrat, perhaps even the son of a king.
It's like trying to sneak silently through shark-infested waters while bleeding. I mean, the prince's fair skin is a glaring aristocratic anomaly in a desert of sun-baked outcasts.
That analogy is exactly right. They are broadcasting vulnerability, and the predator has caught the scent.
Zayn lies flawlessly, without a twitch of hesitation. He claims the boy is his son, and that they live in the high mountain regions of their homeland, where the sun doesn't bear down so harshly, shielding his skin.
It's a brilliant lie, logically sound, but you can feel the air thinning in the room. Every second they stand under the trader's gaze, the danger compounds.
The trader laughs that oily laugh again and agrees to have 3 fine Arabian horses ready by morning.
But as they retreat to the fragile safety of the inn, Zayn murmurs a warning. He doesn't trust the man. He saw the cold calculation in the trader's eyes.
The battle of wits is officially over. The cover story failed.
The psychological maneuvering that saved them at the checkpoint is useless here. They are now shifting into a desperate physical race against time and terrain.
The moment dawn breaks, they take the Arabian horses and ride out hard. But as they hit the open desert, the environment itself becomes an enemy.
The heat descends like an oppressive, suffocating weight.
By midday, the sun is so punishing they're forced to seek refuge or risk losing the horses entirely. They find a shallow cave set into the rocky, unforgiving face of a hill, conceal the horses behind a thicket of dense, thorny brush, and wait in the sweltering dark.
And then they hear the exact sound they've been dreading. the rhythmic, thunderous crunch of galloping hooves and raised voices carrying over the rocks.
The betrayal is fully realized.
Peering through the dense foliage, hiding the cave entrance, they see the horse trader, that scarred face from the market, leading a heavily armed company of soldiers, combing the terrain.
The traitor is shouting, gesturing wildly to the rocks, insisting they couldn't have gone far.
The tension in this moment is excruciating. They are trapped on a rocky alcove, entirely dependent on a few feet of brush to hide them, listening to the very men who want to collect the bounty on their heads, searching mere inches away.
Think about the absolute terrifying silence inside that cave. Think of a moment in your own life where you were completely helpless, where you had exhausted every strategy, every plan, and all you could do was hold your breath and hope the danger passed you by.
The three of them are barely breathing, listening to the crunch of military boots and the snorting of the soldiers' horses.
By some absolute razor-thin margin of luck, the searchers miss the hidden entrance. The voices slowly fade.
The moment the sounds of pursuit are swallowed by the desert, Zayn and his companions burst from the cave and push the horses to their absolute physical limits.
Riding furiously toward the distant border of Yemen.
But the world they inhabit does not let them off easily. On the fifth day, with the sanctuary of the Yemen border finally, agonizingly in sight, the sky turns a bruised, angry purple.
A fierce, blinding sandstorm rises seemingly out of nowhere, howling across the dunes with the force of a physical blow.
It drives sharp grit into their eyes and mouths, filling the air with a blinding, suffocating haze. They are forced to halt their desperate charge, pulling their cloaks tight, huddling low against the violent, tearing wind.
It brings up a haunting realization. After outsmarting armies, utilizing secret magic, enduring brutal physical beatings, and surviving calculated betrayal, is there a point where human will and cunning simply hit a wall against the indifferent, terrifying forces of nature?
It is the ultimate confrontation of man versus nature. Throughout this entire agonizing journey, Zayn and Kanu have survived by manipulating human nature.
They weaponized the guards' cruelty, they anticipated the traitor's greed.
But you cannot bluff a sandstorm. You cannot misdirect the wind. The atmospheric dread of that bruised purple sky serves as a perfect cliffhanger. No matter how clever the strategy, no matter how profound the sacrifice, they are still at the mercy of a world vastly larger and more powerful than they are.
The desert doesn't care about their royal blood. It simply demands they endure, or be buried in the sand just miles from freedom.
It is a phenomenal, harrowing journey.
From the flickering, quiet shadows of Nineveh and the terrifying illusion of the golden lion at the border checkpoint, to the jagged scar of a betraying horse trader, and finally, the bruised purple sky of a suffocating sandstorm.
And the resonance of this escape extends far beyond ancient borders. We all face our own formidable checkpoints in life.
We do.
We all have moments where we must navigate hostile territory under intense scrutiny. This story reminds you that survival often requires knowing exactly when to take the blows in absolute silence like Kanu, when to employ your hidden strengths like Zayn, and how to remain hypervigilant even when you think you've finally reached safety.
Because the storm can roll in just when the finish line is in sight.
Exactly.
It makes you evaluate every strategy you use to protect yourself. Which brings up one final lingering detail to mull over in the dark tonight. Zayn possessed a literal life-saving power. He breathed a golden lion into existence.
Yet, he kept the secret of his magic completely hidden.
Even from the prince and from Kanu, his most loyal ally who bled for him. He let them believe it was just a guard losing his mind. It makes you wonder, is your greatest advantage in life the one you keep entirely to yourself, hidden not just from your enemies, but from those you trust the most?
A chilling and vital question to end on. Knowing what to reveal to the world and what to keep forever in the shadows might just be the ultimate key to survival.
Until next time, keep your secrets close and watch the shadows.